Hello everybody. Today we're going to be learning how to open a box. So if you've never opened a box before, this is going to teach you exactly what you need to do to open one. First off, we're going to go over tools. Whenever you're opening a box, you're going to want to wear some gloves and you're going to need a pair of scissors. So in order to open a box, what you first need to do is remove all the tape from the box. This way you can actually open the flaps of the box. So what we're going to do is first put on our gloves, and then I'm going to get my scissors ready. So yeah, and then once you've put on your gloves, you're going to very carefully snip the tape off the top of the box, being careful not to damage anything, and we'll want to do that on the other side. Alright, nice. Now that the tape has been removed, we can simply just go ahead and, starting from the bottom of the box, simply rip it open. And that is how you open a box of the Dark Hero Challenger Series deck. Alright, let's go over the cards. So when you open this, you're going to get a deck. Now this deck is going to contain all the cards in, and they're basically pre-done. So this deck is what you're guaranteed to get, no matter what deck you buy. And it's a really powerful structure deck. It's got a lot of really good cards, and there's some very easy ways to upgrade it right outside of the box. I believe it's on the life symbol, so if you were looking to buy this deck and then make some quick improvements, one really easy thing you can do is just throw in a bunch of life cards, especially some 0 difficulty foundations. I do believe that is one area where this deck lacks. Normally in every deck you're going to want to have a few 0 diffs just to help out your building terms. And it looks like I put these out of order. Alright, so the first card is our character. Midoriya on the move. I really like this character. I think being able to give something -3 speed on defense is really, really good just for committing a foundation. And you've got foundations that want to be committed by card effects, so you can actually use that to synergize with a lot of things. The transformation is interesting. It says you transform this character, but you have to commit a certain number of foundations at X, where X is usually going to be 3. But if you have any face down cards in your pool, then you can basically reduce that down to 0. You'd reduce it by 1 for each face down in your pool. This response is interesting. Discard a Vestige card to reduce the damage of an attack to 1. Now, I do think that is going to be tricky because you're forced into using Vestige cards, and the only Vestige cards in the game are in this deck. So unless you are going to be committing to those cards, that is going to not happen that often. And one other thing is you're normally wanting to build your Vestige cards. I did play a practice game with this deck, and I felt like I wanted them in my stage, so I was never really holding them for that effect. On the back side, once you transform, is you get another different effect, which is commit 2 foundations, and your next attack gets +3 speed and +3 damage. And that's really good for a lot of people have been experimenting with 1-turn kill decks, where you just kind of build and build and build, and then you play 1 attack after using this form like 5 times, and it comes in with 15/15. That's obviously really good. And also the response here, some people have been calling it the best response in the game. It's kind of like Cheerleader, but even better, because you're skipping the enhanced step, which is basically giving an attack flash. But you're also reducing the speed to 0 and drawing a card, so you're basically guaranteed to block it too. So it's like a better Cheerleader, basically, and that's really, really strong. Alright, so that is the character. I'll put it over here. Next we have our ultra rare action. I think this action is really good because it's so flexible. Anytime you've got anything that lets you choose options and you can just do what you need at that time, it's always going to be very good. I also think this form is sneakily really good. Unflip one foundation in your stage. Um, that's really, really good as well. So definitely a very strong action here. So yeah, there's a lot of foundations. One thing I'm excited to try personally is Bun Collector. Unflipping Bun Collector is really, really good. Although I guess unflipping a Vestige lets you draw a card anyway, so might be better to just stick with the Vestige package. But yeah, giving since this is an infinity symbol card, giving every symbol an access to an unflip is potentially scary, especially since there's definitely loops. There were loops around Word the Victor where you try to unflip a Word the Victor and just like infinitely attack with the same thing. So yeah, an unflip on the infinity symbol is a little scary. Tattered Costume. This is a rare, and it just cancels something on an action or a keyword ability on an attack. This is obviously crazy. I think the most immediate comparison is Dr. Ichigaki, which has seen a ton of play. So this will be really, really strong, especially for these symbols. Bullet Kick. Um, yeah, actually, I haven't read this one too carefully, so looks like this one's an ultra rare attack. Um, yeah, I think this is interesting. Like face down cards in your card pool do not count towards production difficulty. To play this card is is an interesting effect. I do think it means that. Oh, and this also has a way to flip itself. So yeah, I was gonna say that my problem with that sometimes is you know putting things face down into your card pool, that is a mechanic that normally you see played with characters that just make the face down cards in your card pool ignore progressive difficulty anyway. So, like for example, Mina 2, I believe, was popular because her character just says your face down cards don't count towards progressive. So this card, um, you know, that kind of face down card in your card pool mechanic, I think, is just overall tends to be better in those characters, and then it becomes like it becomes redundant text because your character is already doing that. So I think it's kind of interesting that they're starting to make more attacks like this. We also saw, I think it's Acid Screen or something, have this text. So it will be interesting once we get more and more of these to see if any characters that don't do that as a passive, like Mina 2 does, will start to see play with this mechanic of stuffing your own card pool with face down cards. I do think that a downside, of course, is if you're stuffing your card pool with face down cards, that's going to make it harder to build after you attack a bunch. So even if you're able to play this at no progressive difficulty after a bunch of face down cards in your card pool, there are downsides to that. Next is probably one of the strongest attacks, if not the strongest attack in this set. It's a rare, and it just says after you receive a speed bonus of 3 or greater, you get a momentum. So this actually works well with both sides of Midoriya, which I think is really, really cool design-wise. So on the front side, you can give it 3 speed, but on the back side, the ruling that I think most people are going with is that every instance of the form is a different momentum you get to add. So if you form 3 times and then you play this, because what happens is they're all in different triggers, you could respond 3 times and get 3 momentum from the backside of Midoriya. So yeah, this is crazy because if that is the what the official ruling ends up being, then this card not only gets you speed, but then you are basically doubling it because it also has EX3. So you can make this attack really, really huge. Just a massive stat monster. Even though it starts at 0 speed, that doesn't matter. Next we have One for All Full Cowling. I don't have too much to say about this card, although it is an Echo. And I like and appreciate how the Echo keyword actually synergizes really well with any characters that care about face downs. So the fact that this flips itself face down after you echo it um, means that it's a nice inclusion in this deck that cares about face downs. Oh, and we have one more rare, which is this one. Well, first wielder, one for all. After you transform your character, gain 2 health and ready 1 foundation. I do think this is an interesting card, but probably only going to be great in this character so far because Midoriya actually flips back and forth. And the other transform characters we've seen are like a one-time transformation. So, so obviously after you transform, then this stops being, it just becomes blank. So yeah, a good card for Midoriya, probably not used anywhere else. Next, we have 3 of these Swift takedowns. Um, yeah, I think the only thing I have about this card is it's after it's not block draw card. So you're just kind of relying on your opponent not blocking this, but I feel like your opponent, if they really don't want you to be able to flip a card, they're just gonna block it. So, but it's good. It's got stun too, and sometimes forcing your opponent to make that trade off can be good because this is like the freest one to put speed on. Just make it really hard to block because if they don't block it, you get paid. Yeah. I guess the other thing that's kind of interesting is if you want to do the response, you have to flip it face down, which is bad if you're trying to get momentum. So, but that's interesting. You have an interesting decision then. Do you take momentum or do you get the response off? Next, we've got Black Whip Shot. After it's blocked, you do something. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good one because I'm personally a fan of after this attack is blocked kind of triggers. And the reason why is no matter what your opponent does, something good happens. Either they don't block it and you get to deal damage and get a momentum, or they block it and this thing happens. So, so big fan of this card because of that. If it is blocked text, um, I guess the one way around that is obviously damage reduction. And this one is a good one. Add 1 random card from their hand to their card pool face down, and they draw a card. That's like part of why Mob Strike was pretty good, because of that random card disruption. Obviously, Mob Strike also drew you 2 cards, but just being able to randomly take a card from your opponent's hand can really disrupt um, their block plan, especially if they're holding on to a block for some reason. Uh, and so yeah, that is really good. This one's a really interesting one. You can build foundations by doing a card pool response here. I'm interested in playing this in Kamui Woods because you can put it into your card pool from the discard. I think it could be an interesting one to try and experiment with. Next is Smokescreen Charge. I think the main thing about this is that it's a Breaker 2, Breaker 2 low block, which we haven't seen too many Breaker cards have low as their zone. And that makes sense. If you have a Breaker card, you probably want to be, able to block any move because you care about the Breaker more than the damage that you might be taking. But I think having a low Breaker is also valuable, and this deck in particular has ways to change zones very easily, so not too bad. Creative Counter, now this is awesome. Definitely a reason to pick up this deck if you're on these symbols. After you block with a foundation with the keyword build it, that's like Manly Passionate Guy, and that card was amazing, really fun, and really competitive. So just an amazing card that they printed for this deck. Eighth Wielder. This card is like passing the torch, but you need Vestige foundations to make it actually useful. It also removes itself, so I guess it's not passing the torch, really. Yeah, I would say this card, good in a Vestige deck, but probably that's the extent of that. Expression of Friendship. Um, After you make a check, if you have a face down card in your card pool, that check gets +2. It's Tenacious, which makes that really good, actually. I think this is nuts in, say, Mina or something. Um, just having a Tenacious when you need to pass your last attack and you can just always have this in your back pocket, but you don't have to. You can just always save it up. That's really, really nice. So I think that's going to be a really good card if this archetype keeps getting supported. Next, we have Black Whip. I think this card is absolutely nuts because it's a 1 difficulty foundation, and you don't see this effect on 1 difficulty foundations basically ever, which is after you commit this card to pay a cost, change this attack's zone. If it's your rival's turn, flip this card. So, okay, there are some 1 diffs that actually, like I think High Potential is one where you change the attack that's just played to a high, but this being a 1 diff, that synergizes super well with anything that commits foundations in your stage, and being able to change up the zone is really, really nice. So I think this is really good in any character or anybody really that commits foundations as a cost. Danger Sense. This is another insane card. This one is after you make a check to play this card as a block, you can actually change the tax zone to mid, and obviously it's a mid block. So you can always be full blocking with this card. And when it's in your stage, it's really good. It's flip for -2 speed, which is insane. That's nuts. So another staple. I think you're going to see this card in a lot of decks because it's just got 2 things that make it just incredible. Second Wielder. You can sacrifice this to pay for EX or powerful. I'm not sure about this one just because it is a 2 diff. I do think it's good. It's definitely not bad, but yeah, I think it will be a little niche probably. Seventh Wielder Float. Response in the card pool. After your rival plays an ability that causes a card to leave their card pool, cancel it. This is interesting. I think this is gonna be kind of like a card that's gonna basically be a sideboard card. There's gonna be decks like Pony that are clearing, their card pool, and this importantly doesn't say non-character. So this is going to be one of the only ways to stop those insane air decks that are just trying to clear their card pool. Yeah. Next is Smokescreen. Now, I am personally really high on this card. Put a card from your hand into your card pool face down to give an attack -4 speed is really good. But also, I think that because this has the void symbol, it's going to synergize with a lot of the pieces that actually remove cards from your card pool on your rival's turn to draw a card. I think is one of them from the Godzilla decks. So I think this card will find synergies, and that's what's going to make this card really, really good. Because as is, it's basically this lets you block something. It lets you reduce the speed by a lot on a 1 diff. Yeah, the other thing is this is a 1 difficulty foundation, so that just makes this card really, really good. I do think you're gonna want to play this in something that can probably clear their card pool for a benefit on defense. But yeah, really, really good card. Finally, Fajin. Yeah, this one is a 4-check 2 diff, so that is rough. But I do think the fact that you can put it into your momentum after committing it makes it pretty decent. Obviously very good in Midoriya. So yeah, an alright card overall. So ultimately, now that we've gone through all the cards, I have to say that this deck is really good. Can you play it right out of the box? Yes, you probably want to make some modifications though, especially putting in some 0 diff foundations. But otherwise, it's really nice to have such a synergistic deck. A lot of challenger decks, I feel, aren't super synergistic, funnily enough, because they're not built around a single character and a single idea. And I feel like this deck is really concise. It's all, and the funny thing is there's multiple ideas going on. You've got the face down cards and your card pool thing. You've got the whole Vestige idea. You've got the whole commit your foundations idea. But because your character does all of those things, it just feels like a really synergistic deck, where every card in the deck kind of synergizes well with your character specifically. So yeah, I think that the other part of it is because of the fact that Midoriya has so many different things going on. Hold up, let me just. Because of the fact that Midoriya has so many different things going on, basically, you can find other characters and other decks to put these cards into. Especially like Mina 2 is one example, especially since a bunch of these cards that she would want are on water. There's characters that commit foundations like Sero. I don't remember the symbols, but there's probably a symbol you can help that helps out him. Characters that, you know, care about allies, because a lot of these cards have ally on them. This is going to help the ally decks. Maybe Coda will run a lot of these ally foundations. So yeah, I guess I think this is a really good deck, and I think they did a really nice job nailing it. And then finally, you get this pack, which contains collector alt arts. So yeah, let's open this up and see what we get. Oh my god, I just messed up that opening, but alright, whatever. Okay, we got an alt of Smokescreen, amazing. Rapid Rescue, another one I really am a fan of. Love these cards. We got an alt of Smokescreen, so I guess there's an alt and a rare version. Yeah, that alt looks sick. Wow. Great, we've got 3 different versions of this card then. Where is the original? Okay, cool. That's kind of interesting that you get, there's multiple versions of the card. Fajin Flurry, an alt of this, that's kind of sick. And to compare to the original, let's see. Oh yeah, it would have been a rare. Okay, so the alt is very similar art-wise. It looks like they kind of mirrored the image, but it's still really cool. This is a close-up, so I do think this is a nicer overall card, but kind of funny that they look so similar. Deku's Swift Takedown, another alt. That's 3 alts. That's crazy. Yeah, let's see the original. Where is it? Okay, yeah, so this is a very different art. Here we've got a close-up of Midoriya's face, and on the other side we've got kind of him doing something. Really cool. Yeah, 3 different alts is really nice. I don't know what the average is, but that seems high. And then we got a foil Fajin and a, oh, I already went over this one, but a foil Rapid Rescue. Okay, I definitely made this video too long, but I hope you enjoyed this box opening. Let me know what you think about this deck in the comments. Is this a character that you're excited about? And are you going to pick up this deck yourself? Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time.